Did you know that SaltwaterAquarium.com offers a huge variety of livestock that you can purchase and add to your tank? Well, we recently updated the list of options that you have as far as marine invertebrates go, so that is what I'm going to cover in this video. Stay tuned to hear about some really interesting marine invertebrates that you can add to your tank. Hi there, I'm Hilary for Waterlogged on behalf of SaltwaterAquarium.com. As I mentioned, SaltwaterAquarium.com has a huge variety of livestock that you can put in your tank. We've got fish, we've got corals, and we've got a huge amount of cleanup crew members that you can add to your tank. So today I'm going to talk about 6 of the newest cleanup crew members that you might be interested in adding. Starting off with the porcelain crab. Now, if you've never seen a porcelain crab, these are beautiful crabs. They have really pretty shells. It's not a hermit crab like you're probably typically used to seeing in your tank, but one thing that sets these guys apart is the way that they eat. They have very unique appendages at the ends of their arms that they kind of wave through the water column, and they use those to catch food that is floating through the water. So as you can guess, they are filter feeders. So if you are feeding just them in a tank, you want to feed foods that are fairly small in particle size. Think any of those reef nutrition concentrates like the Phyto Feast, Oyster Feast, Rhodie Feast, maybe even some of the pack pods, or if you like to use powdered food, you could use something like the Benepets. That should be the perfect size. However, if you have these guys in a larger tank like this tank I've got behind me, you probably don't need to worry about feeding them specifically. There's a good chance that they are going to be gathering food on their own. They'll typically hang out underneath rocks or just around your rockscape, so if you don't see them all the time, don't be concerned. Now, moving on, the next really interesting species that we've got on our list is a fuzzy chiton. Now, I think these guys are fascinating. I actually see them out in the wild here in the Pacific Northwest. Typically, I find them on the rocks in tide pools and along the docks, but there's a bunch of different species of them around the world, and there's actually some, like the fuzzy chiton, that are suited for aquariums. Now, what's great about these guys is that they do an amazing job when it comes to keeping your tank clean. So if you're having algae issues, you might want to consider one of these. They will help to remove and get rid of turf algae. They're going to help to get rid of diatoms, cyano, all sorts of algae problems. They are going to help you with it. Now, one thing about these guys that you should know is that they are very slow moving. They're basically little armored plates that attach down to a surface, and it's nearly impossible to get them off, especially just using their fingers. Now, when they're ready to move, they'll slowly move across surfaces to go off in search of more food. So definitely a really cool thing to have in your aquarium. It's not something that I've seen all that much of in the past, so it's exciting to see them making their way into the hobby. The next species on my list is a strawberry/tiger conch. These guys are so much fun to have in your tank. One, their eyes are fascinating to watch, but watching them move around is equally as entertaining. They use their foot and they kind of hop across the sand as they are out. Now, typically, you're going to see them spending a lot of their time underneath the sand or inside your substrate. They are great at helping to get rid of detritus and aerate your sandbed. With that being said, if you have a tank that doesn't have a sandbed, please don't consider getting one of these for your tank. It's not going to do that well. The next species that we have added to our livestock lists are sexy shrimp. Now, if you're not familiar with sexy shrimp, they are a smaller species of shrimp than, say, the cleaner shrimp or peppermint shrimp. Sexy shrimp aren't going to get more than a ½ inch in size. Now, you might be wondering about their name, sexy shrimp. Where did that come from? Well, if you spend any time watching these little guys, they will wiggle their abdomen back and forth, and I'm guessing that's probably where they got their name. Now, you can have one of these or you can have multiples in a tank, but one thing you need to be cautious of when adding shrimp and any invertebrates on this list is making sure that things are compatible. There's a lot of different species of fish you could be keeping in your tank, and even crabs and other species that might eat them. You don't want to get a sexy shrimp and have it be a snack for a fish, so always make sure to do your research and check compatibility before you're adding things to your tank. Now, enough of those lectures, let me move on. The next really cool thing that we have in stock for you are feather dusters. Now, feather dusters are a marine worm. Now, you're not going to see the worm itself, but you will see that feathery part. So it's going to come in a tube, and typically you're going to put them towards the bottom of your tank on the substrate. They don't need a ton of flow and they don't need a lot of light, but they, like those porcelain crabs, are going to use those appendages that are sticking out to collect food particles that are floating around in the water column. Again, like those porcelain crabs, if you want to feed them directly, you could use some of those liquid concentrates or even some of the powdered foods that are geared for your reef tank overall, especially some of those corals. Okay, the last item on my list today are clams. And we don't just have one type of clam, we have a huge variety of aquacultured clams. We have Hippopus, we have Crassia, Dorasa, Gigas, Maxima, all sorts of options for you when it comes to adding clams to your tank. Now, if you are new to keeping clams and you're not really sure where to start, I highly recommend you go back and check out the video that I did about clams with John Bowie from Clam Mania. He gives tons of great advice for beginners and experts on how to pick out clams and all of the best things that they need to have for their care to help keep them happy and healthy and living a long time in your tank. All right, that is going to conclude the list of different interesting new invertebrates, but we're adding new stuff all the time, so make sure to check out our website so you don't miss anything. Okay, this has been Hilary for Waterlogged on behalf of SaltwaterAquarium.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.